Australia Award scholar, Ms. Chuchu Sidon from Indonesia, to deliver her address. Chuchu is about to complete a Masters of Public Administration policy at Flinders University. Disability advocacy is Chuchu's life passion. She'll return to Indonesia with rich experience, share with fellows, continue disability inclusion advocacy work at different levels, broaden and strengthen the network, look for a job and utilise her expertise. Actually, I understand that Chuchu's dream is Disability Inclusion Advisor to the President of Indonesia. Please welcome Chuchu.
No, I'm a bit nervous. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I feel delighted to be able to share my experience with all of you today. But before I start, I would like to convey my gratitude to respect the Ghana people and their land, their culture, beliefs, and relationships for the past, present, and future. I'm in love in Adelaide, a most beautiful and clean city, the place that I've ever lived. I guess you agree with this that Adelaide is the most beautiful city here in Australia. A flashback from the time writing the scholarship application, I was asked to myself that why would I apply study abroad? And the answer was study abroad would give me knowledge, experience, and network beyond on the academic skill. Of course, that was not the easy decision to take, because as a disabled person, I'm a woman living in Indonesia, where access to higher education for people with disabilities are difficult because of so many barriers. For example, inaccessible schools, transports, and also the barriers, especially to access the higher degrees. However, I make it. I am here with you all who are graduating and commencing this year. My goal to study abroad is to gain academic and social life skill. In academic things, I have learned how to analyze, convey the argument, and write in academic style, though it's not easy stuff to do. Writing put everything into logic, and analytic is hard part for me. And sometimes I had to run many times the drafts. But the key is never let work close to the deadlines. It's hard, but at least try to understand the requirement as early as possible. And the most important thing is ask for help whenever you need. The other experience from the academic things is that I had very invaluable experience doing the public policy intern in the South Australian Government Office. It's in the Department for Communities and Social Inclusion, and I work specifically on accessible public transport for people with disabilities. So during the intern, they asked me to write about the accessible public transport, to look for the good example from different countries about the public transport especially for people with disabilities, and using these examples as the key guidelines, which hopefully useful for the South Australia. And then the second thing they asked about the case study from Indonesia, which I took from Jakarta. And then the last part, which was hard for me, is they asked to write about the gap the gap of public transportation here in South Australia for people with disabilities. It was hard because I came from Indonesia. I'm in a wheelchair, and in Indonesia, as my fellows here in Indonesia might know, that it's possible to people with wheelchair to travel a lot, to move freely, independent, using public transport as well in Indonesia. However, I found that some documents, I learned from the documents, and I also utilized of the my own experience during the 2 years life here in Adelaide, and I found still the gap on that, and also had the experience or opportunity to talk with or consultation with community that was means a lot. They're all, I gained more social life experience in Australia. The precious opportunity I and my special person here, my husband, as free immersion therapy program, a weekly diving and swimming pool, though I know it's not free because if Australian with disability, they pay by the government. But if you pay by yourself, it's costs like more than $100 per week or one session. So I was very lucky. And then the second experience was the unforgettable hit on snow slope and 9 days wheelchair backpackers. We had very wonderful experience. The backpackers from Adelaide to Melbourne by bus. It took 12 hours, stay in Melbourne at night, and then go from Melbourne to Sydney for another 12 hours. But the train was accessible and the staff very helpful, and we had a chat with other passengers. It was so nice. And then from Sydney, our friend drove us to Mount Treadwell, and then we stayed in Canberra, and we back to Sydney, we back to Melbourne as well, and then we back to Adelaide. So 9 days most all the time, like on the road. The third experience I gained while I live here in Adelaide is my professional development. I had opportunity as a guest lecturer in Disability Inclusive Development course in Melbourne University. I also sharing first arrival experience in Australia with new students who were intake in January and June this year in the IEP program, as well as student life beyond the uni program at Flinders University. But also the most privileged for me also, I was a student representative in the Disability and Access Committee at Flinders University. Also for the conferences, I had the spreading the words on embracing diversity in International Higher Education Conference in Hobart, Tasmania, and I had the opportunity to climb up the Mount Wellington as it is access for wheelchair. Also, I had the opportunity to speak in the annual Global Health Forum in Melbourne University again, and as well as member of panel in the Disability Inclusive Development Training in DFAT Canberra. And just 2 days ago, I just had the invited or speak in the event, International Disability Day of People with Disability in Alice Springs, and I do enjoy the beautiful desert. So, I have many things in Australia. I am impressed with the community and social inclusion in Adelaide. Public facilities and public transport are easy to use for people in wheelchairs like myself and my husband. We are free to wherever we want to go, free whatever we want to do, enjoy sports, picnic, interstate travels, and we have tremendous living experience as disabled person, but not to lose our freedom and independence. Although we will face the attitudes such as not given wheelchair space in the bus because of the passengers has already baby prone, sometimes a little bit debate with them, but that's their things. So, for me, Australia Awards benefits not only myself, but also to my beloved husband. He enjoys his wheelchair sports. Recently, he made his dream came true to help solo painting exhibition that was supported by the local council of City of West Torrens and other support, and as well as opening by Mr. Dave and Kelly Vincent, the member of South Australian Parliament House, who were really actively in disability rights. And also he had the art performance in Alice Springs as well. Dear Philo, one thing I will miss from living in Australia is living independent as wheelchair couple. I have to face the reality of limitation using public transport, living with 24 hours a day, live-in support worker, which means losing rights. But that's not the end. I'm going to utilize my skill, knowledge and connections I gained from the 2 years living in Australia. Of course, I will continue the work on disability advocacy, using knowledge to give him more pressure on making and implementing disability inclusive policy in Indonesia. As Elaine mentioned, my dream is to become a disability inclusive advisor to the President of Indonesia. Dear all, in summary, 2 years in Australia has been beyond my expectation. I have been through my life here in Adelaide, tears, laughs, pressures, frustration, joy, everything I have been in 2 years. I feel thankful to gracious Australia Awards, Australian people and government, Flinders University, and strong support from Indonesian Student Association as well as Indonesian community here. And to all of you, you have been support me in between up and down situation. Now, we have concluded our study in Australia. I believe we are all enriched by different experience living in Australia. This is the start. We are now have new friends, connections, and our open is even wider globally. Let's show the world that we are the agent of changes. And for you who are in the first semester or commencing, enjoy your study, your life in Adelaide. Your time is very precious. Use as much as possible in the positive ways. I believe we will meet again in the future. We will see our efforts bring changes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chichu. Those words were truly inspiring, and I think you embody what we like to feel about the Australia Awards, that it's more than just a qualification. It's about building professional, personal linkages, and it's about experiences and building the networks across our country. So thank you very, very much. Well, now it's time to move to the very important part of today's ceremony, which is the